There is this moment in the early afternoon when the sun shines just right into my little studio and magic happens. I sometimes take a moment then to look at all my little natural treasures I have collected. Pieces of quartz I picked up during a hike in Schwarzwald. A white zebra finch I created with watercolors. Little feathers and flowers I gathered from the garden. A little butterfly and the skull of a mouse. All gathered in my cabinet of curiosities, all reminding me of how magical our earth is. Hey you, welcome to my channel, A Year and a Day. My name is Jenny and August completely passed me by. This was actually the first time I considered skipping this monthly video, because I seriously thought there was nothing to tell and I didn't want to bore you to death. But looking back at this month and going over everything that went on, it turned out a lot did happen in August. After stepping away from a day job back in July that was slowly suffocating me and allowing myself to slow down and take care of my mental health, August was a weird stage in between, a sort of limbo. The worst of my mind storm was over, but I still was nowhere near where I wanted to be. A big chunk of my energy went into trying to figure out what my next step will be and organizing what I need to get there. But I also made sure there was energy left for plain old self-care. And for me, that meant starting every day with yoga and creating stuff. My biggest creative project this month was without a doubt designing our wedding invite. Last month I already showed a sneak peek of the illustration I made. And this month I added a letter with practical information, a note to family members, and because we will be arranging a bus transfer from our hometown to the location, I also created bus tickets. I absolutely loved creating these invites and trying to figure out the best results using our new printer. And through trial and error and a lot of cutting and folding and binding together, I eventually ended up with a result we were really happy with. I will show them in my September video, just because I can't be bothered with blurring out all the details regarding dates and locations, but I hope you enjoy this little sneak peek of me creating them. By sending out the invites, shit suddenly became very real, and I can't believe our wedding is only a few weeks away. I will be completely honest, I wanted to elope to Norway. Just me and my boyfriend, and completely avoid all the wedding hassle. I also hate being the center of attention, so that was another reason why I would have been fine celebrating in a super small setting. But ultimately we did decide to have a wedding, just because life can be hard and short, and skipping a good celebration seemed like a waste. So we really look forward to spending a day with about 40 of our closest family and friends and celebrating love and life and getting married. There wasn't a lot else going on in August that I can show or share here, although I did went to this huge thrift store. I completely forgot to make more videos when I was there and to show the book department, for example. But it is a perfect segue to the next part of the video. So let's go to my table and check out some of the stuff I thrifted and my other favorite things from August. We are slowly moving towards autumn in my corner of the world. Maybe my favorite season of all. There's nothing like the smell of rain and earth and leaves and hot tea and the bright autumn colors and candlelight. And since you can never have too many candles, I picked these ones up in my favorite color. I also have this weak spot for little glass bottles, simply because they give me magic potion vibes and they look great scattered around in my bookcase. I really love the shape and size of this one, so I picked this one up as well. Next up are these two teacups. They come with ceramic lids and filters to put the tea in. I really love the rustic colors and designs of these two. And since one was a bit chipped, I got them both for like €3, which seemed like a bargain to me. I love mixing and matching my ceramics, so I picked up this little random milk jug in the most gorgeous color. And I think these two really complement each other very well. I also visited this little crystal shop, which I completely forgot to film, and I ended up with 3 pieces. These are 2 pieces of rutile quartz, and these stand for perfect balance, hope and trust. And they improve sincerity, independence and self-love. And even though, if I'm honest, crystal healing powers and vibrations and all that jazz are completely lost on me, I do like the thought of these meanings. I also picked up this beautiful Orthocera or straight horn fossil, which looked like this when alive about 400 million years ago. Let's move on to creative stuff. Apart from the wedding invites I worked on and will further reveal next month, I had some fun with our new printer. Finally, I can combine 2 of my biggest loves, paper stuff and photography. I took this macro photo of a water lily hanging half upside down in a pond in the botanical garden of the University of Oxford when I visited with my dad a few years ago. I have very fond memories of that day, and I printed this one on watercolor paper, which had a really lovely effect, I think. These other 2 are of a bird of prey series I photographed a few years back. And I experimented with printing them on different types of paper and in different sizes. And I framed them in wooden frames I thrifted. I absolutely love bringing all these different aspects of my passions together, and actually holding these photographs in my hands is a really lovely feeling. Secretly, I have always dreamed of opening up an Etsy shop to sell stuff like this, but I never had the courage or the energy or the time to do so. But playing around with my new printer really sparks my creativity, and creating stuff like this makes me dream of that Etsy shop again. So who knows, maybe one day I might actually do it. Let's move on to books. The only new book I got in August is one I thrifted. Into Thin Air by Jon Krakauer has long been on my wish list, and I couldn't have been more excited when I found this cloth-bound illustrated version for a couple of euros. Jon Krakauer is an American journalist who, in the 90s, wrote a non-fiction book about a boy who wanted to live a nomadic lifestyle and ended up starving in the Alaskan wilderness. The boy was called Chris McCandless, aka Alexander Supertramp, and the book Krakauer wrote was called Into the Wild, which was later turned into a successful movie by Sean Penn. And in the same year Krakauer published Into the Wild, he joined a climbing expedition to Mount Everest to write an article for a magazine. And that climbing expedition turned out to be the dramatic 1996 Mount Everest disaster, ultimately costing the lives of 8 climbers. Mount Everest and humankind's weird desire to go to impossible places on our planet have always fascinated me. And I've already seen many movies and documentaries about Mount Everest, but I've never read this first-hand account of Krakauer. And I'm glad I was randomly able to thrift this one. Let's move on to tarot, and let's start with decks I got in August and already showed here on the channel this month. The Undersea Tarot is an out-of-print deck from 2008 that I had never seen before here on TarotTube. But I immediately recognized the art style and suspected this deck was illustrated by comic book illustrators, and that turned out to be the case. I made a little video about the deck and the comic books it reminded me of, which I will link. And I also decided to mod this one because I really didn't like the original borders. And I'm really happy with the result. I think the artwork stands out so much better without the borders. It's a quirky deck I'm happy to add to my collection. But if it's actually good enough to read with, remains to be seen. Next is a Kickstarter I backed last year. Yoga for Everybody. A colorfully illustrated deck of yoga poses. And considering the role yoga is currently playing in my life, the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Yoga for Everybody was created by Hannah Tricoire, I hope I'm not butchering that, who also created the Self-Love Tarot. And during the Kickstarter she was offering an amazing deal where you could get both of these decks for a steal. And I'm so glad I decided to also get the Self-Love Tarot, because I absolutely love it. I cannot get over the use of color in this deck. The combination of cool and warm tones is so well balanced out, and this whole deck just feels like a loving hug. Last ones are 2 expansion packs to a deck I already owned. The Spread Machine by Fables Den, who also created the Way of the Panda Tarot. This is a beautifully produced indie deck that you can use in a couple of different ways. For example, you can go through the deck and pick specific cards to create a spread. But you can also blindly pick a card and read the message as you would with an oracle deck. Or, and this is something that I love to do, you can blindly pull cards from this deck as clarifiers for your tarot and oracle cards, creating interesting little conversations in your reading. So when I saw the Change and Quest expansions over at Roi de Coupe, and considering the process I'm currently in with my life and my day job, I decided to order these before they sold out. The Change deck consists of 44 cards and focuses on healing and deep shadow work, which is appropriate since change and growth often are unexpected and scary and painful. But they are also necessary, unavoidable, and a beautiful part of life. And I love that this little deck focuses on the process of change in a very healing and supportive way. The Quest deck is a little more lighthearted. I highly recommend this one for anybody who loves video games or role-playing games. All the keywords refer to gaming, so you have cards like boss fight and stealth mode. And this one has become an instant favorite for me. These expansion packs are also beautifully produced, with lush cardstock, beautifully colored edges and gorgeous colors. And these expansion packs can easily be used on their own, so you don't need to own the Spread Machine at all to use these. And those were the decks I got in August. Now let's check out the decks I used in August for my monthly spread and throughout the month. Starting with the Hollow Valley Deck of Symbols. This one is relatively new in my collection, but already one of my favorite oracles. I absolutely love this art style. it's clean and simple, but also hand-drawn and rustic and nature-based. The keywords in itself are clear clarifiers to a reading, but the guidebook really adds something as well. I feel like this deck could go well with many different decks, but I chose to pair it with the Ellen Iona Tarot. I had expected myself to choose a monthly deck for the month of August with a very heavy summer vibe. But I just felt more pulled towards this hand-drawn indie deck by Ellen Iona. Maybe because I felt generally pretty overwhelmed this month, and the Ellen Iona has this very zoomed in style. No major landscapes or extensive scenes, but very zoomed in on the characters and focused on the people depicted in each card. Somehow that made me feel small and safe, and it pulled me in and made me focus. Lastly, I used clarifiers from the spread machine to complement my monthly reading, and the result was lovely. Since I have already just shown this one, let's move on to the cards I pulled for August. From the Hollow Valley deck of symbols, I pulled the Dagger card. And from the Ellen Iona, I pulled the Knight of Coins and the Nine of Cups. Then I complemented the reading with the clarifiers from the spread machine, and I really loved the result. Starting with Dagger and Purge. For Dagger, I will read some lines from the guidebook, because this was so spot on for someone like me, who has just been giving all her energy to a day job without any results. Dagger is about knowing when to fight and when to surrender. This card invites the reader to take inventory of places in our lives where we are expending our energy on an unwinnable battle and cut loose. Often we want something so badly that we fight harder and longer than we need to for something that is just not meant to be ours. The Dagger card empowers us to break free. The Purge card was the perfect combination. To destroy, to cleanse, to renew, to eradicate and transform. And although I wasn't ready for any of that at the start of August, I was by the end of it. Next up was the Knight of Coins, which talks about efficiency, hard work and responsibility. It was paired with lead, to be the role model, to set an example, to facilitate, to show the way, to steer towards the right direction. And I can't help but connect this one to our wedding, where I kind of acted as keeper of the coins, making sure our budget was respected and things didn't get too much out of control. The Nine of Cups talks about emotional stability, satisfaction and luxury. And it was paired with worldview, which talks about perspective, opinions and attitude, but also about core values, ingrained beliefs and childhood conditionings. This made me think of my view on splurging and celebrating and luxuries. All things that were kind of looked down upon during my childhood, which still influences my own sense of guilt and unease relating to these topics to this day, which is especially challenging when splurging on a wedding and a honeymoon. So these cards invited me to re-evaluate and make the conscious decision for myself to enjoy these times and to not let certain passed down beliefs get in the way of that. I love how I could tie these cards to my current reality and unravel some thoughts and beliefs with their help. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed my August ramblings, of which there were more than expected. And it was kind of a weird month that flew by, but that also feels like an important segue into September, which will in so many ways be a new start for me. Feel free to share your thoughts and your own August favorites in the comments. And with that said, I wish you a lovely rest of your day, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!